$41,719. That's the number that makes people feel because it's not poor, and it's not rich, and somehow it becomes a ceiling. You climb to it, you touch it, you feel proud, and then your money stops growing. It just stalls. Why does that happen? Why do so many people get stuck right there even when they're working, saving, and trying? Here's the twist. It's not that you can't build wealth after $40,000. It's that $40,000 triggers a FI, the kind that doesn't feel like spending. And that's why the $100,000 crossover feels impossible, until you see what's been quietly pinning you down. Let me make this real today. Harry wasn't reckless, he wasn't lazy, he wasn't blowing cash on wild nights. Harry worked the counter at the DMV. He processed renewals, corrected forms, and watched people panic over tiny fees. His take-home pay was $3,143 a month. He split a two-bedroom with a roommate to keep rent sane. He drove an older Civic with a car loan that was underwater by $1,397. He did what responsible people do. He paid the bills. He avoided debt when he could. He invested a little when he remembered. He told himself, "I'm getting there." Then he hit the number. It wasn't exactly $40,000. It was $41,719 on a random Tuesday night at 10:47 p.m. He stared at the screen and felt relief. Finally, I'm not drowning. And that relief is where the trap begins, because the moment you feel safe enough, your brain starts buying safety. Not in one big purchase, in monthly commitments. Monthly commitments are the silent killers of wealth. You don't feel them like a splurge. You feel them like adulthood, a slightly nicer apartment, a car that starts every time, a phone plan that makes sense, a subscription that saves you time, a payment that feels manageable, because manageable doesn't mean affordable. Manageable just means the pain is spread out. Here's what happened to Harry over the next 90 days. He didn't go on a shopping spree, then another, then another. First, he moved into a small one-bedroom. The rent jump was $327 more per month. Then the car. Not a sports car, a newer used sedan with a clean payment. $279 more per month. Then the small stuff. A gym membership, streaming, cloud storage, a meal kit, an app he forgot he had. It added up to $197 per month. Add those together and you get $803. $803 a month. Not a one-time hit, a forever drain. And this is the first secret of the $40,000 ceiling. At the start, most costs are flexible. You can pause things, you can cut things, you can survive a rough month. But once you start upgrading, your costs become fixed. Contracts, payments, minimums, auto renewals. Fixed costs don't care if you have a bad month. They don't care if your hours get cut. They just show up and demand tribute. So Harry tried to fix it with willpower. He said he'd tighten up or eat. He said he'd be more disciplined. He said he'd stop eating out. He did. Then life happened. A friend invited him out. He had a long shift, and he was stressed. He wanted relief, and relief is expensive. That's when he noticed the real pattern. His net worth didn't drop because he was dumb. It dropped because he had turned his paycheck into promises. Every promise he signed reduced the amount of future money he could invest. It was like trying to fill a bathtub while the drain keeps getting bigger. Here's what the $100,000 crossover really is. It's the moment your money could accelerate, if you stop feeding the drain. But most people do the opposite. They hit $40,000 and they expand the drain. Here's the part that stings. At $40,000, you start feeling behind in a new way. You compare yourself to people who look stable. You think you're supposed to have your own place by now. You think you're supposed to upgrade. But comfort purchased with monthly commitments is comfort that steals your future. That's why wealth stops growing. Because you accidentally start financing the feeling of progress instead of building progress. Harry didn't see it clearly until one morning at the DMV. A woman came in furious. She was late on her registration. She yelled about how expensive everything was. She said, "I can't keep up." Then she pulled out her phone to pay, and Harry saw dozens of tiny monthly charges. Not giant ones, tiny ones, the kind you ignore. And it hit him. It's not one big leak. It's a sea of reasonable leaks. That night, Harry did something different. Not a budget, not a spreadsheet, not a perfect plan. He read a chapter from The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. And one idea punched him in the chest. The power isn't making more. The power is knowing what's enough. Because enough is a finish line. And without one, lifestyle becomes an endless chase. Harry realized he didn't have an income problem. He had an enough problem. But he also knew motivation would fade. So he built a system that made enough automatic. This is the mechanism that broke the $40,000 ceiling. He called it the monthly payment permit. Here's how it works. Harry printed 3 bright permits on thick paper. Each permit had one sentence. This permit allows one new monthly payment. Then he did the part that makes it work. He gave the permits to his roommate. His roommate became the permit keeper, not a coach, not a judge, just the person who holds the paper. And Harry made one rule. If I want to add a new monthly payment, I have to trade for it. I can't create a new payment out of thin air. To get one permit back, Harry had to cancel 2 existing monthly charges. 2, not 1, because canceling one is easy. You cancel one and replace it with another and nothing changes. Canceling 2 forces a real decision. Now, here's the part most people miss. The Federal Reserve's annual report asks a simple question about an unexpected $400 expense. In the report on household well-being for 2023, 63% said they could cover it with cash or cash equivalent, but 37% said they could not. That split matters, because the difference between "I can handle surprises" and "surprises wreck me" is not just income, it's commitments. When you're packed with monthly promises, even a small shock hits like a truck. When your commitments are controlled, shocks are annoying, not catastrophic. Harry proved it with his own numbers. In the first month, the permit rule cut his fixed costs by $211. In the second month, it cut another $179. By the third month, he had something he hadn't felt in years. A surplus that stayed. It was $397. Remember that number. It becomes the bridge. Because once Harry had a stable surplus, he could invest without fear. And fear is what keeps people stuck at $40,000. When you don't trust your cash flow, you hold cash just in case. You start and stop, you delay, you quit, you can breathe. And when you can breathe, you can hold. Harry didn't become an investing genius. He did something boring and effective. He picked a broad market index fund inside his retirement account. A basket, not a single stock. A playlist, not one song. He contributed $397 that month. Then he did it again and again. Not because he was obsessed, because the permits protected the surplus. Then the DMV cut hours for 2 weeks. A surprise schedule change. Now old Harry would have panicked. Old Harry would have paused investing. This time, he didn't. He lowered 1 month's contribution to $193, then returned to $397 right after. He stayed in the game. Now let's talk about the lie that keeps people pinned. When you're near $40,000, you think the next step is a bigger paycheck, a raise, a new job, a side hustle. And yes, income helps. You stay stuck. You're running on a treadmill that speeds up every time you get stronger. So Harry added one more rule. Every raise had to earn its place. Every time he got a raise, he got to enjoy a small upgrade. Then the rest had to buy back future stress. Pay down the underwater car loan faster, or build a small cushion for irregular bills, or increase investing. But he could only do it if the permits allowed it. Because the permits are guardrails. They make sure raises don't become new chains. Here's what that looked like in numbers. At first, Harry's investing stayed near $397 most months. Then, he got a small pay bump. His take-home rose by $121. He used $29 to upgrade something that helped daily. Then he sent $92 straight at the car loan principal, manually, the same night, before he could get used to it. That's what earning it twice means. Not guilt, just direction. 6 months after the permits, Harry's net worth stopped hovering and started climbing to $48,183. Then a setback. His car needed repairs. $971. Old Harry would have gone backward for months. This time, He absorbed it and kept moving. By month 8, he crossed $51,399. By month 11, he crossed $62,577. By month 14, he crossed $74,113. And that's when the crossover feeling arrived. His investment gains in a good month were bigger than some of his contributions. That's when compounding stops feeling theoretical. It starts feeling like you have a second worker. But here's the danger. That feeling makes people celebrate with a new payment. That's why people stall. They keep turning future growth into present comfort. Harry avoided it because the permits made celebration expensive. Want that new subscription? Cancel 2 first? Want a nicer car? Trade for it. Want to move? What 2 commitments are you deleting? And that question is the magic. It forces you to see monthly payments as the enemy of momentum. So how did he actually hit 100,000? Not with one lucky stock, not with a perfect year, and fewer promises. He stayed on the permit system. He kept investing the stable surplus. He knocked out the underwater loan gap. Then, when the car was finally right side up, he redirected that extra principal payment into investing instead of rewarding himself with a new car. When you redirect money that used to serve a debt into an asset, your future starts speeding up. Month 18, he was at $83,507. Month 21, $91,379. Month 22, $94,177. And then, on a quiet Sunday afternoon, he saw it. $100,313. He didn't scream. He didn't celebrate with a purchase. And felt something rare. Control. Because 100,000 isn't just a number. It's proof that your money is finally working with you. Now, if your life is already packed with fixed costs, and it's rent, groceries, kids, and survival, then start where you can. Start with the discretionary commitments, the ones that feel small, the ones that don't matter. They matter. They matter because they steal your future in tiny slices. Here's your first move. Tonight, open your banking app. Don't hunt for every expense. Just hunt for recurring charges. Pick one, cancel it. Feel the relief, then pick a second, cancel it. You just earned your first permit back. You'll notice something almost immediately. The next month feels lighter. The next decision feels clearer. Your money starts moving forward again. Because you stopped leaking it. That's the $100,000 crossover, not a number, a switch. It's hard to unsee.